So if you want to build a good relationship with realtors,
Yeah.
just as a little tidbit is throw some feedback, right? Run your analysis and say, hey, I ran it through my performa, my NOI was this, and the cap rate was just too tight for me.
Yeah.
Or I just don't think we can get there. Because guess what? In this market, especially in this market, like a lot of these realtors might call you back and say, hey, Andrew, you know what? I actually looked at your rent roll.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I can work with you, right? What is your number? Why don't you throw me a number? Let me see if I can get it done. Right. So I think that's a thing in the market that a lot of people need to start doing is like, don't be afraid to throw numbers out there.
You throw the feedback. It's almost like negotiating without negotiating.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Right. So that's a little tidbit for today.
Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Andrew Hines here with Jacob Campagnaro. Jake's back to being a regular now.
There we go.
All right. So today we're doing another, because we did one of these before, an episode where we just look at deals on the market and see how they pass Jake's sniff test. What are you looking for? What makes a good deal? What makes a deal worth looking deeper on? Because you've all seen the very elaborate spreadsheet that the investments group uses to run their deals here. Obviously, you're not doing that on every deal. They got to pass the sniff test first. So let's take a look at a few buildings. You tell us what you like, what you don't like, Jake, and that'll be our theme for the day.
Right on. We're going to pass your sniff test too, Andrew. So not just me here.
Oh yeah, I have a sniff test too. So yeah, we'll go into detail.
And we're going to elaborate on some of the tips and tricks that we suggested last time we did this.
Sure.
Like the what was it? We did a dollar per door analysis. We did quick cap rate analysis. We did the 0.6 rule or the 1% rule.
The 1% rule. Mine used to be the 0.65 for student rentals. That was like the number. I knew where I could get it at the end, so I could just work backwards to find out what I could pay for a property.
Yeah.
So that worked. And depending on where you're looking, 1% rule might do it. Would you say generally that does it? I've never really calculated that on one of our deals.
Well, yeah, like 1% rule. 1% rule was always like, obviously that makes sense. That makes things work, but it was always very hard to achieve. Like that was not really something.
But on multis, is it also hard to achieve?
Yes. Because
I never really look at it, because with multis you just express like the annual rent but I guess no, we do look at the monthly rent too, for the rent roll. So yeah, we could look at that and apply that, right? Like some of these buildings have like $22,000 a month coming in rent. If it's like a multiplex, so you could just do the same thing there. I'm used to doing that more on single families, but absolutely, yeah, that could work really well on multis too. Okay, let's take a look at some buildings and.
Yeah, so first one here, I got 3 for us today that we can look at. Completely different spectrums of the investment realm here, but we have 17 Weber Avenue. And so 17 Weber Avenue, I'm fairly familiar with the property. It's a non-purpose built 10 unit. It's located just off the Victoria Access in Hamilton.
Was this just like a giant house at one point?
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice.
Right, so...
so quick math, you're $175 a door.
For 10 units.
Yeah.
Now there's a mix of bachelors, 1 beds, 2 beds. I do actually have the rent roll for this on a different computer, so we're not going to show it today. But we're going to look at the quick analysis here. I'm going to go through it. So obviously this is again, non-purpose built. You can see though, it's very unique, right? Like it's quite a Victorian manor, I would say.
Yeah, and that's got charm. Some people really like that.
Yeah.
Like that. There's a certain tenant group, I think, that actually like go for that.
Yeah. Units are unrenovated, I would say, right? Just looking through it here.
Looks okay though.
It's all right. So, looking at something like this, like obviously separate hydrometers. So this is the thing, right? When going through, I think we talked about this briefly on the last one. Like photos are so important. And when it comes to this, and maybe everybody's got their own way they like to do it. I do something similar to this, right? When I post a listing up, I'll say, okay, a few exteriors, give it a good shot. Mm-hmm. I'll do a couple unit photos, but I try to get into the mechanicals a little earlier, so I don't have to keep scrolling and scrolling here, because I want to see right away. Like the photos are going to tell me more than the write-up here. We have obviously an inline boiler system.
But what's that's a normal water heater right there.
This is going to be the hot water tank, but it'll also be connected. If you look up here at the top, you can see it's connected to the boiler. So it's a recirculation system. So the boiler is going to heat the hot water, which will go into the tank.
Oh, really? So that tank doesn't actually heat it, or it can keep it up?
It'll keep it up, but the boiler is going to heat it. And what's nice about this system is that one tank can probably run those 10 units, no problem.
Oh,
You will never run out of hot water with this system.
And the reason there's a boiler in there is for heat, right? For all the units.
That's correct. Yeah. So if you go back to some of the units here, you can see radiant heat right in the unit. So that's going to be your main heating source.
Yeah. So you're going to have a decent sized bill for that older house. Probably not great insulation. Yep. That's going to be a big expense, but there's separate hydrometers. So you could, as you said, you could do mini splits.
That's it. You can do a bunch of stuff here, right? And so, we'd have to look at the amperage of the meters, decide what to do here. Something usually older like this, honestly, again, I don't know what this one has, but usually it's around 60 amp.
Yeah, but we were just doing this for one of our projects yesterday. Like you can get mini splits so efficient that they'll literally, 1,000 watts, 800 watts is all you're looking at in terms of usage. Like it's equivalent to a small space heater.
Yeah, exactly. So overall, like looking at this, you have a nice piece of land here. You have this purpose-built 10 unit. The units are a little bit chopped up, right? There seems to be some parking here. I like this shot of the drone.
Yeah, you had a little inside knowledge on this, but I mean, just like viewing, you'd have to assume, like viewing the photos, you'd have to assume it's a little chopped up, being that it's not purpose-built. Like you kind of just got to know that that's what you're getting into. Yeah. Otherwise, you go purpose-built, and then you got the nice hallway down the middle, and the rooms evenly distributed through the building. That's obviously not what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can actually so this building here, to the best of my knowledge, I believe it's this building just sold for 1.7.
Yeah,
which is an 8 unit, but it was really nicely renovated, purpose built. So you can kind of see
there's a little discount.
That's why I picked this one, because I wanted to show you kind of like, hey, purpose built versus non-purpose built. What's the difference? The unit layout, the unit size. There's actually metrics that you can look at for that.
You could do something really cool with the one we're talking about today, like because there are people who would really love that look, and if you did a nice job of sort of bringing out its charm, I think it could do really well.
And that's it. And then listen, there's different types of investors out there, and that's why I picked this, right? Because some people are going to say, "Oh, I don't want to buy and hold non-purpose built." Obviously, higher maintenance cost, higher utility cost potentially.
I like how you said potentially. I mean, like looking at the building, you got shingles where you wouldn't if you had a flat roof, purpose-built building. Not that that's a bad thing, but just looking at it, there's just a different type of maintenance,
and that's the thing,
that's required.
And right now, it's crazy because we see all of these non-purpose built deals out there that are, in my opinion, very good deals. Like especially some of the smaller ones, 6, 7, 8, 9 units, non-purpose built, like. People basically giving them away right now. Like it's unbelievable, but they're not moving. Like non-purpose built is not moving. So that's something that I wanted to bring up in this conversation to say, hey, if you're okay with non-purpose built, do you start considering that as an investment strategy to say, hey, I'm going to go pick up a few of these. Maybe you don't hold them for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, but maybe it's that stepping stone for you to get into the market. Yeah. To then grow that portfolio.
For sure.
I know Zach on our team has 2 beautiful non-purpose built rental properties. I believe there's 6 unit, 8 units, something around there. Again, the cash flow through the roof, the right purchase price. You can get 85% CMHC financing on them, no problem. And they're going to work for you really well. It's just not purpose built. So that's what I like about this one, because usually you don't see a 10 unit not purpose built.
That's true. 10 is a hard number to achieve, not purpose-built.
Exactly. You need a big mansion.
This is a big mansion, yeah. This is a cool one. So the initial sniff test on this one was taking a look at the pictures, seeing that it looks relatively in order. I mean, there's certain things you're just not going to know unless you go see it, right? Yep. I think with purpose-built, you kind of have to, right? With non-purpose-built, you have to go see it. With purpose-built, you can almost tell from the photos. Yeah. Like what you're getting into. So sniff test on this one, like is there a $1 per door? You would say, nah, I'm not looking. Is there something that could have put you off here?
Again, it's just going to boil down to unit size, unit layout. So what I would do for this listing in particular is I would reach out and see if they have floor plans, see if they have measurements in the units, right?
And unit breakdown. Like I would want to know, and I don't know if it says it here, but how many are bachelors?
Yeah, they give you like a general here, right? So they say, 10 charming apartment units, rare investment property, modern classic, prime location. So a lot of filler. right? But 10 unique units, a mix of bachelors, ones, and two bedroom apartments, all with distinctive features, right?
Yeah. That would be my one hesitation, because it's just the marketability of a bachelor unit and how marketable they are. Like, I'm not saying they aren't. I'm just saying in that area, is that something that rents up quickly? Like, what's going to be your quickest renter? Probably the one bedrooms.
Yeah. One bedrooms are popular, right? So it's also saying 50% vacancy.
And so why is that? I mean, Hamilton, everybody needs a place to rent in Hamilton, it feels like.
Yeah, and so again, going through this, right, I can't tell if we're seeing all the units here. This doesn't look like 10 units to me.
No. So you're obviously not getting the whole picture. I think first thing is seeing, contacting, finding out why there are vacancies, what's the story behind it, and then getting out to see it is probably going to be really important. Assuming that you can find the cash flow palatable based on what the pro forma is.
First glance, like you said, 170 a door, right?
175.
175 a door. That checks my box. Like that on the dollar per door thing, that goes, okay, that looks decent.
And that's advertised price too, right? So you can always go in and try and
that right there, that's kind of okay, this is interesting if I want to buy non-purpose built, and I'm going to dive into it a little bit further. So I'd ask for a rent roll, see if they have a detailed rent roll with monthly rents, vacant, how, when have the tenants moved in, unit size, do they have floor plans for the unit? Really understand that, because with not purpose built, that's kind of key, is to understand, hey, am I buying a 400 square foot one bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Or are these 700 square foot one bedrooms?
Right.
And so those are kind of key things to know.
Well, I mean, you could look at the square footage. They're saying it's 5,000 for the building, which means you're averaging 500 a square foot a unit. So some of those bachelors are going to be real small.
But we also have quite a lot of hallway there.
And there's hallway, yeah. So how much of that is hallway? So how small are these units? Yeah, that is
because you just go back to this photo here, right? Like, look how much hallway there is there.
Yeah,
right?
so these units might be microscopic.
I just don't know, right? I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know at that level, so I don't want to be saying that because I don't want to put that out there.
No. And that was me that did it. I'm not the licensed realtor here.
Yeah. So we just don't know. So this would definitely be, what do the unit size looks like? Let's get in and take a look at it.
Yeah.
Can we make it happen? But overall,
it looks like a nice looking building.
Decent location. It looks like you have some parking there. So the dollar per door is interesting. What's next? That's my opinion on this one. So we're going to move on to something that's completely different. I grabbed this. I just want to do this one really quick because I just thought it looked cool.
Yeah. Duplex?
So it's a duplex. So purpose built, kind of like Victorian duplex. Obviously, they went in and did some really nice renos on it.
In Chatsworth?
In Chatsworth. And so
that's going up north near
it's going up north. And then I also like that it
Wyerton, South Beach.
They did a decent job on this, and I'm just curious, like, what would you think of this, Andrew? Like, do you think 700 is too much for this? Right, it was just listed.
Well, if you do $1 per door, I mean, but you can't really do that with duplexes.
No.
But then you think about, well, how is my cash flow going to work on something like that?
Exactly.
At 700 and change, like that's my quick sniff. Is like, I mean, just out of the gate, $1 per door, you're probably not going to cash flow. If you think about, well, what can I get it for rent? Like, let's just do some quick math.
Yeah. That's
what's the most you're going to get.
That's why I wanted to pick this one, just FYI, because I wanted to do this kind of quick math duplex, make it easy on 2
So what's
units,
the most?
Right?
Yeah, here's how I like to eliminate things or qualify them is just quick math. Like in a best case scenario, would this even make sense? And in a best case scenario on that, what are you getting for rent per side? 3,000. If it's a 3-bed, it's a 3-bed, I'm saying I'm not even looking at that.
Well, I think they're 2-bed, 1 bath.
2-bed, 1 bath. Okay, so they're not getting $3,000. So what are they going to get? 2,500?
Yeah,
on a high end. So you're $5,000 on the whole thing. So $5,000 on what is it? 750. You know what? It passes my old 0.65% rule, but that was back when interest rates were in the 2s.
Yeah.
So and I would get like a decent bit of cash flow on that. So
another way I would run this. Another way I would run this is obviously we have to look at. So really quickly, because I'm going to dive into a quick cap rate analysis here, right? Because $1 per door doesn't going to work when you're looking at.
So you can't do $1 per door.
Right?
You could do like, is it 1% rule or 0.65 rule, which I've done, but I don't think 0.65 works anymore. And for those who don't understand what I'm saying percentage. So what is the monthly rent divided by the purchase price? So 0.65% is what I used to do business on. And then, 1% rule is what the gold standard was, everybody wanted, which kind of went away. Like, it's kind of a unicorn, but I think it's coming back.
Mm-hmm. So looking at this, the big thing for me would be, okay, utilities. How are the utilities broken down? Right? Because I want to do a quick cap rate analysis. And so just looking at this here, I see there's a heat pump for heat. That seems to be the heat source.
So you're not going to be paying any utilities,
right?
probably.
So you have electric baseboard and you have heat pump is what's in the ad here. So I'm assuming there's no gas. Okay, I could be completely wrong, but just off this quick little analysis, no gas. Okay, great. So you have hydro and you have water. Again, we got to see what there's no water meter here. The water doesn't say separately metered, but it is two separate units.
It's a nice looking place.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with it. So my thing would be like, okay, so assuming the tenants are going to pay all utilities, right? If you have two tenants in there, they're paying their own hydro. The heat is hydro. There's water separately metered because it's a duplex kind of thing. Then I would look at it and say, okay, I'm going to take that $2,500 a month, add it up. That's your gross monthly.
So you have $5,000.
Yeah, so $5,000 times 12 gives you your annual.
60. Yeah.
Right? Then I would subtract that by what the OpEx is going to be, what the operational expense is going to be.
You think 35%?
I would say 35% if there was a boiler system and everything like that. So I would say closer to 25 to 30%.
Okay, so 25 to 30.
Right.
So.
Assuming landscaping, snow removal, property management.
So the easy math is just 60,000 times 0.7. That's what's left. So your operating income should be 42,000.
So 42,000. And then we'll apply that to the 750. Right, what's our cap rate?
Oh, what's your cap rate? So
Yeah, quick
42
cap rate
over
analysis.
750. Cap rate is it's 5.6. Yeah. 5.6.
Yeah, so 5.6 cap based off a really quick analysis. If you were in the market for a quick duplex thing like this and you feel 2,500 in this market is reasonable, I kind of like this property.
Yeah.
I don't mind a 5.6 cap.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to go to Chatsworth, like if I'm already an investor in Chatsworth, sure.
Yep.
If I'm going to go to Chatsworth, I'm not going to go to Chatsworth for this deal. But
And that's you.
yeah.
Right? There's many people out there that probably would go to Chatsworth for this deal.
Oh, it's a beautiful
right,
house. It's a beautiful house.
So anyways, but let's move on from that.
I'm applying my opinion, which is obviously like heavily influenced by like my 14 years of investing and doing the different things that I do.
Yeah,
So
we're going to be biased about what we're saying. But yeah, anyways, I like that because I thought it was a nice little reno, cute property, right? We'll do a quick analysis on it.
Well, I love the brick on it. Like it's incredibly well done. It's like in Chatsworth, that's almost like over renovated because who has a place like that as a tenant?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really see that in Hamilton. If you saw that in Hamilton, you probably would be getting over $3,000 for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe not.
Maybe because things have sort of softened a bit in Hamilton.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. So anyhow, but that's just a quick analysis on that. So that the first one we did a bit of a deep dive. The second one we just did a quick cap analysis and the 0.6 rule that Andrew likes to use.
I used to like to use.
Now we're going to look at something purpose built, a little bit more substantial. It's in Kitchener. So we have an 18 unit building, 22 parking spaces, built in 72. This one's been on the market for about 30 days. And let's look through the
first thing I would want to do is just like obviously look at the door price per door. Are we in a logical ballpark? What did you say? How many units?
I was 18, I believe.
18 listed for 4.1.
So we're going to take a look here.
What does that work out to be?
Yeah, 18 units.
So 227 a door.
227 a door in Kitchener.
Kitchener's obviously like a prime market.
That's not over the top.
Yeah, it's a little high, but it's not over the top.
Like 250 a door for something decent in Kitchener. Like again, well,
that's just Kitchener.
We're in a little bit of an unprecedented time, right?
Yeah.
So where does the deal make sense? That's how I would actually look at this one. Like the dollar per door is in that range where I'd say, okay, it's not scaring me away.
Yeah.
But this investment better make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, like they could all be two beds. I mean, the sniff test, your quick look, oh, that's a little high. Let's dig deeper, see what the unit mix is. Is it mostly two beds? Then that might start to make more sense.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to look through it. Right. So nice concrete brick. All right. Units.
Oh, like super nicely renovated.
No, this might not be all of them. We don't know, right?
Yeah. Could be. Likely not all of them, though.
Yeah. So just looking through.
Is that a boiler?
Yep, boiler. So newer-ish boiler.
Yeah, it's a little older than the new ones.
Yeah. but it's not the 80s ones.
Yeah.
So again, you have that recirculation system into the hot water. You got a shot of the roof there. All right. The roof shot's always a tricky one because you got to get a nice dry day. Or else it could look like you have ponding water, but it's just raining in the photo.
Yeah.
But roof looks like it may need some work, right? It's looking older. You can see the difference here. So this is going to be a new membrane roof.
The white one?
The white one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's based on this photo here, from what I understand. This would be the membrane roof. So this is kind of the more modern roofing style. It's actually a rubber membrane that they put down.
Okay.
Very durable, very long lasting. That's a great style roof. This seems to be
like your flat roll,
like rolled shingles, rolled asphalt, right? So again, still being used quite regularly. But you know, it doesn't seem to be, there's no evidence of extreme ponding, right? Maybe over here a little bit, maybe here. So just little things I like to look at when I'm looking at these buildings, right? Is just what's that look like? And then they've also thrown in a unit plan here. So I actually really like how they did this listing. It's actually very similar to how I would do my listings, is a couple exteriors, 1 unit, 2 units max, boiler room, mechanicals, and then a layout so you can get a good idea of what we're looking at here. So you got your square footage, right? So we're looking at, 722 square feet per unit. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. No, 2-bedroom. We got a primary and a bedroom. So 2-bedroom.
Is that your kitchen right there in the middle there?
Yeah.
When you walk in? Okay.
So living, kitchen, dining, foyer.
Yeah.
So pretty nice layout. I like that.
Yeah.
Like that's a very roomy layout. That's obviously purpose-built layout.
Well, and this is like being built in the 70s. Like that was like the age of the boomer heyday, which was like the wealthiest generation ever. They had big places.
Yes. Yeah.
The stuff in the 70s is going to be big.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have nice layouts that are very spacious.
Yeah.
And I would expect no less.
Yeah. So this one here, again, if all the units look like the ones in the photo, 227 a door is not out to lunch here. Like we're actually kind of right in the range. I doubt they all look like that. We'd have to look at the rent roll. But this would be something that I think we explore a little further. I know the team, we actually did explore this one a little further. I actually think we've offered on this one a couple times.
Okay.
So I know this, that's why I actually picked it, because I was like, oh, this did pass our sniff test. We did go look at it. We did actually offer on this already. For all these reasons, right? We said it's a nice building. Yeah. Lots of parking, which is great.
Right? Yeah.
That's key.
At least some renovated units.
Yeah, some renovated
at least
units.
one, we'll say.
At least one. Yeah. And then the, we request the rent roll and go from there. So, don't be afraid to reach out to realtors on realtor.ca and request the rent roll. Every realtor should be able to have that quickly accessible to you.
Yeah.
You'll see that a lot of people don't put the NOI or anything in the listing. I don't put my NOI in the listing. I give you a brief overview of what it is in the listing. I try to explain it to the best of my ability. But I want you to reach out to me so I can provide you my rent roll, provide you my pro forma, because everybody's going to run their NOIs differently.
Yeah.
So just to put a number in the write-up, I don't know, doesn't work for me.
No, fair enough. And that's pretty common, I would say, for many of the multi-listings I look at. Rarely do you see income and expenses mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you gotta call. For the record, though, guys, you can also just reach out to Jake and their team, and they can help you with stuff like this too. Like, obviously, we're sharing this stuff. Like, if you want to go direct, you can, but obviously, they're able to help you with that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, we have a lot of the data for a lot of these buildings because when we're not on calls or sending emails or doing listings or whatever it may be we're actually sourcing, and we're out there calling and getting these numbers for you. We have we have full-time staff that their job is just to get data and run numbers, right? Run it through the pro forma. Does it pass the sniff test? If yes, then great. We have our roster of buyers that we're working with, and we're going to start pairing them to those listings. So that's awesome. Kind of our inner workings here. But these are 3 completely different properties with very different ways to look at them. But I thought that would be a cool little episode for today.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's great to see just sort of how you look at stuff right off the bat. And I think that's what every investor needs to hone in. You need to be able to look at a deal, especially if you're like making this your business and you're like aggressively investing. You need to be able to look at a deal and know if it's a good deal for you. And being apples to apples, knowing how to compare and quickly break down numbers, so knowing which properties to dive deep on Like you got to have a filtration system, like a funnel at the top. They all go on the top, and you whittle them down to just the best few that you actually run due diligence on.
You know, and one thing I'll mention, just because it's a pet peeve of mine, but when you're looking at these properties, you know, you reach out to the realtor, hey, send me the numbers. Great, we send you the numbers. Don't be afraid to give feedback. Right? I always appreciate feedback when people are looking at my listings. Right? Whether it's overpriced for you, underpriced for you, whatever it may be, right? Like, you know, I really appreciate that feedback, and most realtors do. So if you want to build a good relationship with realtors, just as a little tidbit, is throw some feedback, right? Run your analysis and say, hey, I ran it through my pro forma, you know, my NOI was this, and the cap rate was just too tight for me. Or I just don't think we can get there. Because guess what? In this market, especially in this market, like a lot of these realtors might call you back and say, hey, Andrew, you know what? I actually looked at your rent roll. You know, cool. I think I can work with you, right? What is your number? Why don't you throw me a number? Let me see if I can get it done, right? So I think that's a thing in the market that a lot of people need to start doing is like, don't be afraid to throw numbers out there. You
throw the feedback. It's almost like negotiating without negotiating.
Well, that's exactly what it is, right? So that's a little tidbit for today. I get a lot of people, like I have a listing where I have over 45 inquiries, right? And it's working for some people, it's not working for others. But the ones it doesn't work for, you know, I always like to say, hey guys, why didn't it work? Can I send you something else? What else are you looking for in the market? And if the feedback is just, oh, it didn't work, I don't like it, then I don't know what else to send you.
It doesn't help.
I'd love to continue working with people that inquire. So little tidbit. Anyways, take that home.
That's good. I mean, one thought I just wanted to take a look at sort of is the bond yields and sort of what's been happening with some of the uncertainty.
We can jump on that.
Just a quick, because we've already sort of completed the episode, but it kind of ties in. You've got these different buildings now that maybe didn't work before, but as these rates continue to come down, so we had yields up around 3.27. Where was this? Mid-January. We have yields down at 2.687. And for those of you unfamiliar, typically banks are adding a 200 basis point or 250 or something like that premium to that. So you're potentially down in the mid fours, not even insured right now with the yields where they are on a 5-year. I mean, depending on what you wanted to pick. If you want to take a 10-year, then you look at the 10-year yield. But
well, we're seeing on insured, like at CMHC, insured mortgages on
under
the
4
bond
now, right?
Oh yeah, we're putting deals together that are like the spread, right? So what the spread is basically you look at what the bond rate is, and then what's the bank? What's their premium? What's the difference between the bond and the premium of the bank?
It's what they're 100 basis points on CMHC or 150. It probably depends on the size of the deal.
It depends on the size of the deal, but we've done anything this year so far from 60
basis point spread,
to 120.
Yeah, so that's something that
anything in between.
So you can keep an eye on that, especially if you're doing larger deals. Like if you're doing like a $5 million or $10 million deal, like you could expect a super low spread. Doing CMHC's insured, and now you can evaluate your deals, and deals that might not work for other people or might not work even on a smaller property now might work just great for you.
Yeah, and the like for example on the bigger stuff, if you're looking at like an 80-point spread. What would that be, like 3.75?
An 80-point spread would be 3.48.
Even better.
3.48 right now.
3.48 on an 80 spread, and if you're a 100-point spread, you're whatever. But
so again, for those not following, we're talking about the premium that the bank adds to make profit. So they take the bond rate because they know they could just invest safely in bonds, or they could lend a mortgage to you, and they're expecting to make a premium over what they would get putting money into bonds. That's how that all works.
So, and give us a call, reach out, put a comment down there. We can always talk to you guys about this and walk you through on these different buildings what we feel the bonds would be. And we also work with a lot of brokers. So the cool part is, if you really want to hone in on one property and you go, Jake, I really need to know what the bonds or what the rate might
would be.
Like I can quickly call a broker, and within 12 to 24 hours, I'm going to be able to get you an answer on that.
Yeah, and like that's the point, guys. Like obviously we put on this show. I thought it was a great idea when Jake and I started this. Like, hey, we'll convey a lot of wisdom that you have. Make it a deal analysis show. Obviously, Jake, you and the team add a ton of value here. So if you guys are watching this and getting value from this, support their team. Give them a call. You can opt in through the link under the video, and that puts you on their list. It gets you in the queue to get a phone call from them. Hey, how are you? What are you interested in doing? And then it also gets you on the deals of the week. So you're in the Insiders Club. So now you get access to all this off-market stuff that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise. So anyways, that's a great first step. Nice segue into that. I took the opportunity. Anything else we want to say for this episode?
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. If you made it this far, guys, thank you very much. Show the channel some love. Maybe share this video with somebody you think it could help. And obviously leave us a comment, things you want to know more about. I'm going to go check comments right now so that we can answer them on the next episode. All right. We'll see you then.